What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down one of the best moves that wide receivers can use at the top of the route that DBs cannot guard if you run it correctly. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Hope it can teach you a few new things, but also, fellas, if you are a wide receiver and you would like a daily off-season training schedule that you can follow with the exact gym exercises you should be doing and on-field drills, check out that very first link in the description below for our ultimate 8-week wide receiver workout plan. You'll get access to 2 months of daily workout splits with the sets, reps, and an example of each gym exercise and an example of each on-field drill. So check out that very first link in the description below if you're interested in that this off-season, fellas. Let's get started with this video. So the move I want to talk about at the top of the route is going to be a rocker step. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down the exact technique behind the rocker step, your foot placement, how you should sell the route with your body, what foot you should step with, and then I'm going to break down when you should use it, because it's not just about knowing the technique behind a move, it's also about knowing when to apply it in an actual game situation. So we're going to break down the technique from this perfect rocker step here from Hunter Renfrow. So he does this rocker step move on an out route to get that DB to crash. So the routes you can use a rocker step on are personally what I would say is a post route, a corner route, a 10-yard, 10 to 12-yard like dig route, or like a 10 to 12-yard out route. I don't like it on anything shorter than that because I feel that it doesn't serve too much of a purpose in that case. So when it comes down to the mechanics, a rocker step is essentially like if you're running an out route, you're obviously breaking out, you want to step in the direction that you are going first. So it's pretty much just a 1-2 or a crossover at the top of the break. So if I'm running an out route right now, what foot am I going to step with in this case? I'm going to step with my left foot first to sell like I am breaking off of that left foot and I'm doing some kind of inside route. So it's a 1-2 at the top of the break. So how you don't get confused on this is think step in the direction that you are going first. Now it's very, very important that when you do this, you want to think your upper body is separate from your lower body. When you guys throw this cut, a DB, especially if he's in like off man, press man, which are two situations that we're going to get into later, where are his eyes supposed to be? His eyes are supposed to be watching your hips. He's reading your body language. So if you don't sell with your body and you're just taking 2 steps, that's not going to get a DB to jump. So you almost want to think of it like this is separate from that lower half. So when Renfrow takes this first step to the outside, you see how he's not reaching. That first step needs to be inside of your frame. It has to be a sudden step and you got to shoot that foot into the grass. So you're running up, you're stepping with your left foot first. It's a hard step. You're shooting that into the grass, but you are not reaching. The more important cut on a rocker step is the second cut, because that is what we were trying to sell. In this case, he is trying to sell a post, a dig, something breaking to the inside to get this DB to jump. So this cut is sudden. Now, when he cuts, you see it's inside of his frame, like I said, and that also means he's not cutting off of his heel. So many times wide receivers at the top of the break will reach and they will cut on their heel first. When you shoot that foot in the grass, you want to be on the ball of the foot, middle arch of the foot, because now you can push off of this cut to sell that inside fake. So he shoots that foot into the grass, he's on that ball of the foot, and he pushes off of it. That push allows you to throw your hip and to turn the hip and turn the shoulder to make that DB bite. Because like I said, you want to think of it like your upper body is separate from that lower body. Now, when he shoots that foot in the grass, he pushes off the inside arch of his foot, ball of his foot, throws back to the inside. Notice how he doesn't open up his toe. So many times what wide receivers will do on a rocker step, a crossover off the line, is that they will overkill when it comes to selling it. Like I said, your lower body wants to keep you in an explosive position to drive out. Your upper body is what sells it. Yes, you got to step far with your lower body, but you need to stay in an explosive spot. So you see how when he makes this first move and he sells it the second move, the toe stays pointed forward. He doesn't let that toe open up, because when your toe opens up, your hip opens up. And where do you ultimately want to go on a rocker step if you're running an out route? You want to go out, right? You don't want to be able to cut here and get stuck at the break point, then get out. So keep that toe pointed forward. Have the upper body sell the move. Yes, you have to step there, but keep the toe forward so when we break out of this thing, you can drive off, stay in that good foot strike, and actually accelerate with some explosion to pass that DB. We don't want to open up too much, because when we open up too much, that will make us slow. Yeah, it might sell it, but you're going to get stuck at the break point because you can't push out when that toe is open. So to recap, fellas, with the technique of the rocker step, you want to step in the direction you're going first. The first step of the move has got to be inside your frame. It's sudden. It's a hard step. You're on the middle arch ball of your foot, so you can push off of it to sell to the inside, which is the more important step, and have that upper body be separate. So let me ask you this. If you guys were doing this on a post route, what foot would you step with in this specific scenario? you would step with your right foot, right? So you would go step right, then fake left. So right, left instead of left, right. Just a simple crossover, a 1-2, however you want to think of it at the top of the route. That's what a rocker step is. So now I'm going to break down the different situations you can use this rocker step in, because honestly, there are a lot. There are a lot of different situations you could use it in. So you can use it, obviously, against man coverage, right? Whether it's press man coverage, whether it's catch technique like this, where the DB is sitting maybe 2 to 3 or 4 yards off, I should say, you can use this rocker step when you have a DB restacked. Okay, so that's the only time I like it against man coverage, right? And there's some other different coverages that we're going to get into. But what this wide receiver is doing is he's running a corner route versus outside leverage. So I'm sure all of you know this that are familiar with this page. This DB is trying to take away the outside, right? He does not want the wide receiver to run a corner. So if we try to just force the outside release and break off of my right foot and go, chances are a disciplined DB is not going to let me do that. Because if I force that release, he's just going to keep his leverage. His responsibility is to protect the outside. So I got to get comfortable taking the inside release here. But when I take the inside release, a goal of mine on the route should be to stack this guy. So let's play this full speed. So he comes off, he attacks him, takes the inside release, 1-2. And again, he's running that corner, so you want to step in the direction you're going first. You want to step with your outside foot 1, sell like you're going post 2, toe stays forward, hips and shoulders solid. When a DB is in man coverage and you have him stacked, where are his eyes? His eyes are trailing your back hip, and that's when we can roll. So I like this. Honestly, fellas, I like it against any type of man coverage when you have him stacked. Okay, and again, it's the same routes that we talked about. Posts, corners, digs, outs, nothing shorter than that, because it's unlikely that you're able to restack in that situation, okay? Now, does it always have to be against outside shade press? No, it could be against inside shade press, inside shade catch technique, and that's the next example that we're going to show. Now, this route is going to be a dig route. So a lot of people have an easy time using that rocker step on like a post or a corner, right? But usually when they run a dig, it's a little bit trickier. So let's break this down. So again, we got press coverage. He's inside shade. This wide receiver's got to run a dig. So if he's running a dig versus inside shade press, he's not going to be that guy that fakes outside and tries to cross this DB's face to go just take the inside release on an inside breaking route. You have to get comfortable taking the outside release, even against inside shade press, when you have an inside breaking route. So he's not going to force it, because if he forces it, DB will keep that leverage. He will get hands and squeeze you all the way to the inside of that field. And one-on-ones, yeah, you might catch the ball. But in a real game scenario, you got other receivers on the field, other defenders, there are other routes. Your spacing will be off and your timing will be off. So that's when you got to use that rocker step if we can stack. So he gives him a move inside. He attacks that leverage, holds the DB. Don't need to break his ankles. We just got to hold him to the inside. So he takes that outside release. He shrugs off. He gets him into a stack position. Now he uses that rocker step. So if he's running a dig, what foot should he step with first here? His inside foot, which would be his right foot. So he hits him with a 1-2 and then is able to break that thing right off, come back to 90 and get flat on that dig. Now, think about the rocker step. Doing it on a post and a corner is easy, right? Because if you're running a post, a 45-degree angle is a lot more forgiving than a dig. Because like on a dig, especially if it's like the terminology of basic, where you got to come straight flat across, it's not like a dagger where you could break. Like I'm sure everybody has heard of a dagger concept. That's like where you're an outside wide receiver and you run a post dig and the slot receiver's running that seam. And this is usually like you break it 12 up to 15. So it's not like a post dig. It's more like a basic where you're just going up and going straight across, if you ever hear that terminology. So when you do that rocker step, it's got to be more of a lateral rocker step. You don't want to step super far vertical when you do that 1-2. It's more of like a lateral cross, almost similar to a crossover you would do off the line. Just so when you push off of that foot, and it's the same mechanics. Your upper body's got to be loose. You have to sell with your hips and shoulders. The toe has to stay forward. It's just more of a lateral step. So after you make that break, you can actually push and come back flat rather than take a more vertical step, drift up field, and have this real long dig break, giving this DB time to recover. So this is a perfect example of how you can use that rocker step on a dig, a 90-degree cut. Just be more lateral with it. And I love this rocker step anytime we have a DB restacked in press man coverage. Great job by this wide receiver running that dig and being comfortable with the outside release. So now, next example I want to talk about here is going to be against zone coverage. So how can you use a rocker step against zone? Because it is a great move to use against zone. So in that first example from Hunter Renfrow, we saw how you could use it on like an outside outside breaking route, right, against zone. So this DB's lined up outside leverage. It looks like he's playing like a deep third or maybe a deep fourth, whether it's cover 3, cover 4. We don't really know because we can't see the whole field, but it looks like maybe cover 4. So if he's playing that deep fourth, his job is probably to funnel everything to the inside because he's got what to the inside? Safety help. Because again, he's outside leverage. Just because he's outside leverage in zone does not mean that anything changes about his leverage responsibilities. He's outside leverage zone, but that still means he's got help inside. And he's not trying to give up anything to where? The outside. So if you have to run that 10-yard out, you could do what Hunter Renfrow did. You run up to him, you attack that inside shoulder, you give him that rocker step fake to get him to crash on the post, and then you slip under. And you gave the quarterback space. You didn't just try to run to the blind spot and break, have the DB weave and keep his leverage, and now you have no space. You set him up. You attack the inside shoulder. So if you have an inside breaking route, can you still use a rocker step? Absolutely. You would just use it to threaten that blind spot. So Jamar Chase here, he doesn't end up getting the ball in this, but he's running a deep post. And I want you to see how he structures this route. Because even when you're not getting the ball, you should be setting up these types of moves. Because again, it can build into other things throughout the game, throughout the practice, whatever you're trying to do. So let's play this full speed. So he comes off the ball, gives that 1-2 to the blind spot, widens the DB, and all that does is create a bigger window. So you could do this on a quick post, you could do this on a dig, you could do this on a deep post. But when you attack the DB's leverage, again, his blind spot is technically his leverage because he's outside leverage. So if you come off the ball and you threaten that leverage, what is this DB going to do? He's going to keep his leverage, right? He's taught do not give up anything to the outside. So the best way to widen him, so you actually create a window right here, would be coming up to him and threatening that blind spot with that rocker step. And again, he steps with his inside foot first, step where you are going first, fakes to the outside. It doesn't need to be like a broken ankle type play. And then he runs that post. It's the same thing. I'm sure you guys all saw that Gabriel Davis route 2 years ago in the AFC Championship against the Chiefs when he flipped that guy's hips. It was the same scenario. It was just a quicker post because when this guy's outside shade, he would love nothing more for you on an inside route to just take off and go run because he's thinking, great, I could just funnel him all the way to my safety, and that's a tough throwing window for the quarterback. So if you can go right at that front hip, threaten that blind spot with that rocker step, that can get you more space. So let's play this again, full speed one more time. Great job by Chase coming at him, hitting him with that rocker step to widen him and winning on that post. I don't know if he ended up getting the ball at the end of that clip. I don't think he did, but still a great example. So now another thing you could do, fellas, is when you have off-man coverage and they're inside leverage, a rocker step is a great move to use when you have an outside breaking route, like an out route, a corner, or a fade. I don't really like it on like a comeback or maybe like a sit route because it's just not the type of break that we want to use. But this is a great example of Chase Claypool doing exactly that. So remember, it's always about leverage responsibilities. So this DB's inside leverage, what's his responsibility? Protect the inside. So he wants to prevent you from running a post, a dig, a deep post, a curl. So we want to try to threaten him with that because that's what's going to get him to move. And that's where that rocker step comes into play. So let's look at Chase Claypool. He comes off here. He squares him up, hits him with the rocker step, widens him because he makes him think it's a post, and that creates more space. A lot of younger route runners, wide receivers who maybe don't have the highest football IQ, they'll see this type of look, and what they'll do is they'll just run up and break. But when you just run up and break and this DB gets right on your hip, number one, you don't have as much space as we could to the outside, which is tough for the quarterback because that's a shorter throwing window. And the DB's right on your hip. You didn't sell anything. You didn't widen him. You didn't move him off of his platform. So that's when you can use it. So if you're running an out route and you have to do a rocker step, what foot should you step with first, your left or your right? It would be his left. So he steps with the left foot here, one. Again, upper body is loose. Threatens him with the post two. Nothing better is going to get him to move than this rocker step. And now you see, created more space and threaten a DB, which is how we get separation. Separation is all about space to accelerate out of the break and threatening this DB where he doesn't want us to go. So let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Claypool hitting him with that rocker step and then winning on that out route. All right, guys, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in that comment section below. We always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you would like an ultimate 8-week wide receiver gym and field workout schedule that you can follow on a day-to-day basis, check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to get you on that, you guys. I'll see you next time.